The whole world is underselling us. You know it as well as I do, right? I can't think of anything better. The fact that they aren't talking about our team with the depth that we have at every position, I've been saying it to every that I've spoken to in the media, right? In terms of our goalies, our back end close defensemen, our long stick middies, our short stick middies, our face-off guy, our midfields, and our attack. We got the best players at each respective spot. Saying what we did. We set the tone. They got to fall in our role. You guys understand that? And that comes down to you handling your role and embracing it regardless of what it is. We don't give a who plays. This is about winning, and that's it. On three. 1, 2, 3, ha!
All right. Oh, I hate that. I hate that. There we go. And we're back. So, Matt, you didn't see that. Probably a good thing Cam saw that right away. Huge shout out to my friend John for that intro. I got to get back with him. We got to tweak some things. He knows what he did. He'll be listening to this later. He's a sub for Barstool. That's all I'm going to say. That's my pub for him. We're back, and what better to have the guy who's actually going to his first game of the year? I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, it is the first game of the year. Usually I do a trip up at like the opening weekend.
Right.
See him in the Dome, but that didn't happen. And then when Cornell came, it was just raining and miserable, and the game was pretty miserable. So
fair weather fan Cam.
Yeah, literally fair weather, right?
And
that being said, it's supposed to be really nice and sunny at Hofstra on Saturday.
Matt, I just want to say, if it rains one drop, Cam will not go. You just heard that, right? You just heard.
I have no rain gear in my entire closet.
That's so funny.
Something you can contact. And I'll say the unofficial, as he introduced himself to people yesterday, right? Is that a fair way to introduce you, Matt? Because you said it to.
I mean, I've been here every week, except for the random off ones that we do.
Yeah.
So
he did introduce himself, Cam, as the unofficial. I'll just say it that way.
Unofficial
That's how
co-host.
he introduced himself.
That sounds like a discussion you guys need to have.
I just want to say, look at the Twitter bio. That's all I'm going to say. It doesn't say unofficial. So, like we were talking about before, I figure we'll go first half, second half, 2 different games. But first, I feel like this is an every week thing for Matt now. Let's let him get on his soapbox, Cam. Let's let him get all his.
Let me stand up on my soapbox.
We should name this segment at some point.
Oh my God!
Listen, if we can do segments, we made it. So ahead,
I don't know. Was it Tuesday? Maybe Monday or Tuesday, or beginning of the last week. They came out with the Torton finalists.
Yep.
And I think it's ridiculous that Joey is not a finalist. I know everybody can say, "Oh, you're obsessed with him. Your family likes him. Blah blah blah. You're a homer, whatever." Other BS. But when that came out, I pulled up all the stats of all 5 of the finalists, and then Joey's, and I compared them all.
Okay.
And if you look at, so CJ Kurse and Jackson Eicher both have better stats than Joey. So those two, I'm not even going to argue. But when you look at Sam King, Coulter Mackesy, and Chris Kavanaugh, Joey has more points than all of them, total points, more points per game overall. They all have similar, like, bad games. Like, both Sam King and Coulter Mackesy had just a 1-point game at some point. Against big teams. Like, Sam King only had 1 assist against Princeton. Coulter Mackesy only had 1 goal against Cornell. Which Joey had the same line as Mackesy against Cornell. Joey has more ground balls than Mackesy and Kavanaugh. He has less turnovers than all 3 of them, while playing more games. And so it's infuriating. And I think they're just, they're all seniors. We're going to give them a chance to be a finalist. And I'm saying all of this knowing that it's pretty much a moot point because it's CJ Kurst's award to lose. But at the same time, like, I feel like Joey deserved to get that recognition, and it's frustrating that he didn't.
Yeah, I think we were talking about if you want to make a finals, fine. I'm okay with it. We all know he's not going to win, right? Like we all know Joey wouldn't win, like regardless of the fact.
CJ.
Like, but it's
CJ's he's got it in the back.
Yeah.
So,
We all know.
So I was saying to Dan before you hopped on, Cam, that I think the only way that potentially he wouldn't get it, and this is like a super extreme circumstance, is like, let's say he like lays a goose egg against Richmond and they end up losing, and then like either Coulter Mackesy or Chris Kavanaugh, because it's down to only those two who are left, right? If one of those two guys puts the team on their back and leads them all the way to championship weekend and wins the title, that's the only maybe exception, but I still think CJ should deserve it, but I could see where it might waver that a little bit.
The crazy part is, right, even in that scenario where, like you said, right, like the only way that necessarily someone's going to put themselves even in that conversation is through a ridiculous May run where you put the team on your back to, honestly, it has to probably be a championship. But that being said, they're still not going to be at 104 points.
Yeah.
In 16 games. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so, like,
yeah,
I don't know. I think this awards, and we're at the point where it's kind of no matter what, go into the guy who has 100.
I think it was. I was gonna say I think it was locked up weeks ago. For being honest, like let's not like.
I mean, this is the guy who has the single season goals record.
Yeah.
Or no, the all-time goals record, but he's approaching the single season goals record.
Right.
Yep.
You know, I was gonna say Matt didn't pull up that stat. Just want to shout out Matt.
Would you say? Curse record? Well, I didn't even bother with Curse because he's. Yeah.
No. Yeah, I know. We joke about it, but like
the interesting thing too is I think it was Dan Arestia posted about how like technically it should be Zach Greer's record because he had the 1 year at Bryant when they were transitioning and it didn't count.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting.
Cam's got 6 screens, so I'm letting Cam look it up.
Because he has like 248 or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember seeing that correctly.
Okay. That's correct.
We got a vamp, Matt. Well, Cam looks this up. This might be like a 5-minute search.
This isn't a 5-minute search. Am I a little rusty? Yeah. Did I used to have this PDF on like speed dial? Yes.
So in like
not quite anymore.
I think one of the other narratives around Joey is like he had stats for against crappy teams. And I think that I don't think that was as much of the case this year as it was he had like he took a step in the positive direction this year in terms of performing against bigger competition.
Yeah.
Like if you look at his numbers, like I think short of that 11-point game that he had, that random 11-point game. Let's see. But that was against Colgate. And Colgate's a top 20 team. So like they're not Notre Dame or Cornell, sure, but they're not a slouch either.
I mean, they almost beat Penn State.
Yeah, like
they're an NCAA tournament team. Let's just say it that way. Wow.
He put 2-4 against Towson, another top 20 team. He put 2-2 against Maryland, which last year he did not do as well against. He put up 4-1 against Notre Dame, 2-3 against Duke, 5 assists against North Carolina, 4 assists against Notre Dame, 1-2 against Duke, and then 1-2 against Harvard this week.
It's, there's a higher level of game-to-game consistency. I think even last year, the Joey doesn't produce in big games thing was overblown.
I think too. I would agree.
But he's become the master of a very quiet 2 and 2, right? Yeah. Where maybe you're not seeing the overall effort, but
because it's not necessarily on the stat sheet.
And you're like, oh man, not a great game. And you look at the stat sheet and he's got 5 points, right?
Yeah.
And there's an art and a skill to that as well that can't be discounted.
Well, and like if you look at the five finalists, all of them are, with the exception of Sam King, maybe the closest, but like all of them are goal heavy.
Yeah.
Like, like Jackson Eicher has 23 more goals and assists. Coulter Mackesy has 25 more goals and assists. Kavanaugh has 11 more goals and assists. Where Joey's flip-flopped. He's got 50 assists and 30 goals. So it's like it's not as sexy per se to be the assist guy,
Right.
So
the thing about Joey, and it's been this way virtually the entire time he's been on campus, is that he has the bulk of the passing responsibility and then like the bulk of the assist. It's usually 33 to 35%. Right now his assist share is at 35%. So this is a guy who's making 35% of the assists on a give or take top 5 offensive unit efficiency wise in the nation.
Yep.
And probably the most ball movement heavy of those top 5 offenses.
Yep.
So you're talking about someone who has been the best quarterback in the country for multiple years at this point.
Yep.
Now, the other stuff almost outweigh, like it almost in public perception can outweigh that aspect of his game, where, like when it's 11, when it's 11-11, but not before they just run the clock out at the end of the Harvard game, and there's 10 seconds left on the shot clock, you're like, okay, the guy you want with the ball running from the sideline to try and make a play happen is Spallina. And then you're like, he needs to pass it quickly because I'm not fully confident in his ability to just put a move on a guy one-on-one and put it in.
Right.
And then it turns out, right, he tries to put a move on, rolls back to his left hand, low angle shot with his left hand, goalie sees it the whole way. It's pretty easy save, right? So, look, if he was someone who consistently beat their man one-on-one and score, he would be unbelievable. Like he'd be in the same tier as Curtis.
Yeah.
But
that's not the type of player he is.
No.
People think that and they think, oh well, he's just overrated. Can't produce in big games, can't be big cover guys. What I thought I thought the way that Syracuse has used him throughout the season has helped benefit him in that regard, and that you're not just going to be the ex quarterback anymore. We're going to let you freelance off ball. We're going to run you in more sets from up top like a box player.
Yep.
The thing that's crazy to me, I pulled up his like individual stats on the SU website. In the past 7 games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, past 7 games, he's had 3 turnovers total.
Yeah. This year he has been the turnovers. This year it's been remarkable.
For him, let's just preface that for him. Before we get there. Like
he has 15 turnovers in the season. It's less than 1 a game.
Yeah, like less than 1 turnover game is nuts for any player.
Especially considering, like you said, his role. Like that's impressive.
Like, for someone to have 35, like over a third of a team's total assists, and still be producing less than 1 turnover a game, I think to Matt's point, the discussion and the hype train and the circle and 22, and he's not producing in big games, he can't beat this guy one-on-one, like it's all swung the other way to the point that I think Spallina is a little underrated in lacrosse circles now. But you know what? Overtime winner was 22-77.
And I also just want to say this. He's another one, Matt. We talked about it. Cam, you obviously know this. He has the quietest points in the game, right? Like, you look at his point total from the game, it's like, okay, he only had that. And that's not even a bad way. You look at his assist numbers. You guys just talked about it. Like, I mean, you even look at this game, right? Like, we can talk about it. Like, it's Joey has 3. Nobody knows about it. Nobody knows about the assist, though. Everybody talks about the goal.
Yeah.
That's what everybody around me was talking about. When's Joey going to score? When's Joey going to score? Why is 22?
That being said, his 4th quarter goal was filthy. His fourth
It
quarter
was.
goal.
We'll get there. Don't worry. There's some filthy. Like we got to get to the bad stuff first. Like we got.
We do. Yeah. Before
So-
we get-
We got to get through a lot of the bad stuff, right? Because there.
and only like if someone in 5 years, 10 years is like, what was the 2025 Syracuse lacrosse experience like? I'm like,
Yeah.
go watch Harvard first round NCAA tournament.
Yep.
There is no more quintessential showcase of what this team has been all year than that game.
I was
Because
gonna say.
only this Syracuse team could come out that flat, that empty, that bad on offense in a tournament game that they're hosting. And then similarly, only this Syracuse team could pull themselves out of it and find a way to
Right.
win anyway.
So what's crazy is there's a fan who we were talking about before. I don't want to mention his name yet because I've got somebody that he told me at halftime, but he looked at me. He goes, "Hopefully this isn't the Mother's Day curse." Because we all know how this works. That the 7:00 game, it's the day after graduation or the day of graduation, right? Like,
Yeah.
they come out flat every single time.
Yep.
And it had the feeling in the beginning of the game at me like that was it again, right? Like there was the tightness, as somebody who you went to school with, Cam, talked about at the beginning of the game. The tightness was there. The nerves were there.
Mhm.
That's the team that we saw against Carolina. That's the easiest way I can just no communication on defense.
Season. They were losing on effort plays.
Yeah.
I rewatched it this morning.
Oh boy.
And honestly, like my takeaway, my takeaway on defense is nowhere near as bad as my takeaway on offense. Like that first half, Harvard's offense is very good. They're gonna get there.
Yeah.
And they worked the Syracuse defense into situations where they got theirs, and they put Jimmy in situations where you're not making that save, right?
Yep.
Now, was Jimmy making the kind of 50-50 flip saves? Not really either in that first half.
No.
But it wasn't a situation where it was like, oh, that's a gimme. Oh, Jimmy should have had that. Oh, Jimmy should have had that. And there were also lots of possessions in that first half where the defense got theirs against Harvard's offense, where they made the stops, where they forced bad shots, got shot clock violations. The infuriating part is that those possessions were seemingly always followed by a blown clear or a successful clear that led to an unforced offensive turnover.
Well, I mean, you look at Cam, but you look at their clears, right? We'll just go there first.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, if you look at the first half stats, like and not look at the score, you would think it was like 4-2 because like we were even on shots.
Yep.
We had a few less saves. We only had 2 more turnovers than them, which is wild because both teams were playing like garbage. I think it was a matter of, and then even like clears, like we missed 3, they missed 4.
Right. Harvard had the hustle plays, right?
Yep.
Like I like lacrosse reference because they don't factor face-offs into ground ball numbers, right? Like if you go look at the Cuse.com stats, then it's like
it's lopsided. Yeah.
If you go to lacrosse reference and they factor out the face-off, the face-offs, Harvard won the ground ball battle 22-14.
Yeah.
And their ground ball percentage in the first half was like 69% in the first quarter,
right?
75% in the second quarter. Second half, basically was 50-50 in the second half.
Right.
So I mean, the effort plays, the hustle plays, but then the number of offensive turnovers that were just unforced. Players couldn't pass it properly. They couldn't catch it right. Hiltz had maybe one of his worst games overall in a Syracuse uniform.
Yeah,
I would say both him and Sam had their worst game. They combined for 11 turnovers between.
And those are the guys who you're like, okay, like maybe they're gonna get theirs. Hiltz obviously has he's scored in every game he's played. Like got a point. English, right? Senior veteran leader. And it was just uncharacteristically flat, even for the lulls on offense that we've seen throughout this season. So where you're like, man, nothing is connecting for these guys.
I was gonna say it's like right, so it's not like the passes where the defender is close. A lot of them, it's just like, okay, you're up top. We're gonna throw the ball out of bounds over your stick, or
we're
completely
gonna try and
miss
force
you.
it. We're gonna force it into this window on the crease that's kind of there if you nail it, and very much not nail it, and it just sails out. Or it bounces off Ben Thompson's stick, and Harvard wins the ground ball.
There's one stat that neither of you mentioned for the first half. It's called face-offs. Like that.
Yep.
That's what kept that game so close. I think we could be honest here. Like,
Yeah, but
well,
I mean,
and
it's also like
that's the difference between this game and North Carolina, right? Like, that's why we couldn't come back because we weren't winning faceoffs.
I mean, Johnny still did good in the first half. Like, I think people need to remember that it wasn't that he was doing bad.
No, Johnny was always doing good. The problem is the faceoffs aren't relevant if you don't score. You got to score to get a faceoff, right?
Yeah.
So,
9-3 in the first half, and you're like, okay.
I think it was 9-3.
8-2.
8-2. Okay.
Yep.
8-2 at halftime. It's like 2 goals at the half, and both of them were solo efforts where Luke Roa beats his matchup and scores him out. And that's it.
See,
that's the whole thing. That is untenable on offense. That is borderline a fireable first half on offense for Pat March, for
well, I think the crazy thing is
ready to say that the Firegate crowd was out in full force at halftime, but
hands up, right here. I'm here. Trust me. But I think we've joked about it kind of like if Luke Roa has those games and it has those goals and it's close, I'm the happiest person in the world because we want the Luke Roa production all year.
Yep.
It was there. Nothing else happened.
He was a big miss in that first game. And this was an evidence why, because so much of Syracuse's offense is based around initiating against short stick midfielders. And Roa, Harvard does not have a cream of the crop short stick defensive midfield unit. I think we as Syracuse fans have a lot of gripes with our unit. It's not that. And Roa was able to get to his spots where he wanted against those short sticks. And I mean, that was literally the only source of offense in the entire half.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of crazy though, because there's a name that people forget from the short stick defensive side for Syracuse, and it's Levine.
Yeah, he's such
Levine. You show that guy who Matt tried to take his seat the one time he sat next to me. I'll just say it that way. That guy looked at me and goes, "You realize how big of a piece he is in a game like this." As a one-on-one defender, you don't have to slide. The slides were so early.
They were so quick yesterday.
It was like, let him beat you. It was they weren't even by him and they were sliding. And then there was no second.
The thing is, there were times where that worked. The aggressive sliding style, right? I push back on the defense because at least the defense was getting their licks into and winning some of their matchups. On offense, it was stinky. It was really stinky.
But I think what's crazy too is their goalie was making saves. I think we need to be fair with that.
He made a couple.
But not spectacular saves.
No, but
I think there were 1 or 2 posts as well in that first half.
Yeah, I just heard a lot of the crap. Syracuse is unlucky. No, their goalie made some saves. I think we need to be fair
but
here.
It's that's not their goalie's good. He was good.
Yeah.
But it's not. You're not. That's not Entenmann level. Oh wow, that's stuff.
No, but I think the thing that's frustrating though is there are fans, and Matt knows. You obviously Cam know the same thing. No matter how many saves that Harvard goalie has, it was always going to be the Syracuse offense fault. Their goalie could have stood on his head the whole game and made every diving save, made every single save, but it still would have been somehow the Syracuse offense. Which is
honestly, I don't blame that. The process in that first half is rough. It's one thing if you are getting good looks and just not finishing them and shooting. They were not generating quality looks to their ball movement at all.
Yeah,
right.
And the couple they did, there was the one that I think it was Joey to Hilt on the doorstep, and the goalie stoned him. A
great save, right?
Yeah,
that's gonna happen sometimes. But you win that with volume. And it's not as though there was a lack of offensive possessions that was creating that.
Yeah.
Right.
And so then you guys can probably speak to it more because you were actually there, but the momentum and energy in the dome cascades.
I was
right. It's 3-0, and you're like, okay, maybe they, just kind of like settle in, right?
Well, it was one of the.
I was gonna say, I think when it got to 3-0, I was screaming, "Call a timeout!" Because like just settle in, just call a timeout, get everybody settled. Like, okay, they're up. We did this to them. We know we can come back. All that, the crap that I heard from people sitting next to me the whole time, and I hated it. I don't ever want to be down 3-0 with half of the people I was sitting next to, is all I'm going to say. Because God love it if it had gotten to 10-2 or something like that. Because there were people who were
at 3-0, you're like, okay, they've been here before, right?
Yeah.
From Duke, it was like it's not a serious problem until they're down 3-0. But
then I mean, Matt, the number was 5,000, and you can attest to this as well as I can.
Like 20.
It sounded like 20. Because every cheer was like, okay, like great, like yay, like they clear. I just happened to be sitting behind the Harvard's face-off parent as well, so that was my fun experience. So she was obnoxious. We'll just say it that way. I think it was either the winger or the face-off. It was somebody on their main unit. The first goal, she stood up to me and she goes, "There we go, there we go," and I was like, I don't know if I'd be doing this early.
I'm going to punch a mom tonight.
not in the Harvard fan section?
What's that?
Well, because there's like a designated section that the Harvard.
No. So
I guess it's not designated, but that's where most of the Harvard fans.
So the NCAAs are dumb, and I hate this as a Syracuse fan. There should still be, as a season ticket holder, I don't care. This is my pedestal, Matt. So let me out.
Get up there, Dan. Get up there, buddy.
When you pay for a season ticket and you sit in a certain spot, I don't care if it's NCAA. I don't care which stadium it is. If it's assigned seating, you should be allowed to sit there. And there should be none of this crap where it's general admission for everybody.
Yeah. That was one thing that I thought was interesting was like at the beginning, the atmosphere just felt off because there wasn't our same intros.
Yes,
100%. The like intro video they do, like the smoke coming out of the tunnel, like all that stuff.
NCAA crap.
It was and it was like if you earned a home game, you should be able to do that stuff still.
Yeah. I think most teams still do, which kind of threw me off because I was like, okay, they're introducing the starters. Get 2 lines out there. Just get 2 lines and do the regular, at least something to normalize it. Like. And that's my pedestal for that. But
also the shop was closed too, which I was bummed about because I was going to look at some shirts. Yeah. Yep. But they probably didn't have students to work it because they're all gone. So
right. The 20 people to 15,000, Matt. I think that's a fair way to say it. We can kind of transition into the second half because you go into half 8-2. If you had told me they would come back, I would laugh at you. I'll be perfectly honest. Like Brian said he wasn't scared. Brian said he wasn't scared.
I was sitting with Brian and I somewhat agreed with him and probably because I knew that if they just cleaned it up on offense, we'd be fine.
Yeah.
Because we were going to win faceoffs. We knew that was going to happen. So if we could just get a couple possessions, start chipping away at it, we'd be fine.
Yep.
If it was we were down by 5 goals with 3 minutes left, I would have been like, all right, this is over. But like the fact that like even when the start of the fourth quarter happened and we were still down 5, it was like, all right, there's still plenty of time. We know we're going to get the possessions. We just got to clean it up. And they finally did. And it was just
the second time they got down 5 in the fourth quarter was the first time I was like throughout the course of that game, I was like, oh, like they might be cooked. Like this steak is rare. This steak is medium rare. This steak is the fourth quarter when they were down by 6 in the fourth quarter. That's when I was like, it's well done. They're cooked. I think Evan Malloy. To go back to the first half, right? Like summarize the first half. Like my thoughts on that. Like I put it at halftime. They're like at halftime, all of them were frauds until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
That's the rules. That's how it works. You go
Yep.
out, you lay an egg like that. You have people talking about this as one of the worst performances by a home team, a seeded team in a tournament first round game ever. You're all frauds. That's the rules. But even still, like most of us were sitting there like, there's a path to victory because Johnny Mullen can win everything. And so if the offense put together, you can make your way back into this. Evan Malloy summed it up, and I think he put this in early in the fourth quarter where he said, having a good face-off guy makes you a sick mofo. Because I am fully confident Cuse is going to win this. And that was it. You're like,
yeah. Well, I think for that though, right? Like there were Harvard fans waving bye to me. I'll just say it that way. From that side of it, like there was a lot of taunting from the Harvard side, and it didn't come from Syracuse until the comeback was full. I can just fully say that.
That one dude on the broadcast when it was 7-1 who looked at the camera and went like
but I said to my dad, I said, we get one, it's game on. Just something, some sort of momentum.
Yep.
Right? Like, and I think, I don't know when it happened, when Jimmy beat Harvard to the end line, that was the most fired up I saw him all game.
Yeah.
And I looked at my dad and I said, there it is. That's it. That's the one. Like
they were
a juice play.
They were within striking distance kind of for the entire third quarter, but Harvard was also having to answer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
In the penalties.
Bear Anderson, it was very good to see him show up and get a goal.
So speaking of Bear, that's one of my points that I had. So I looked at Brian because one of the first runs Bear had, he was kind of like, I don't want to say half-ass dodging it, but like just a kind of sweep and then pass. And I looked at Brian, I'm like, he's got to dodge with purpose.
Yep.
And when he did, he scored. And it was like, thank you. Just go to the rack, dude. You can beat people. And I don't know if that's just freshmen afraid to make a mistake. It's probably part of what it is. But, like, it's the same thing with McCarthy.
Yep.
He had a couple times where he had an open look and he chose to pass. And it's like, dude, just shoot the ball. Like, you're on the second line. Shoot the ball.
More with McCarthy than Bear because McCarthy's been on the second line all year.
Yep.
Well, and McCarthy doesn't make mistakes, so that's why McCarthy's out there. He is your face-off wing.
He had that play in, I want to say it was the first half, where he just completely didn't notice a trailer from the Harvard, like a Harvard trailer coming, and then
there was a couple of those. There was
when he's the Sammy on the second line, right, where he can like get back into the hole, like we don't have to sub someone off, and
which is why I'm like at peace with him there, right? I'm like, I see why he's out there, and it's not necessarily offensive production. If he gives you a goal like he did against Duke, that's gravy, but that's not what he's there for.
That I'm going to use that quote with my team this summer.
Matt is available at NCAA coaches. Just want to point that out.
That feels like the best generic offense quote you could put out there. Yeah. You're like, I don't really know what the answer is, guys. Just dodge with purpose. Dodge with purpose.
Matt, to push back on McCarthy a little bit, if I could, people don't want him to shoot. I hate to say it that way. Like, people don't expect it. He's like the Johnny Mullen on the offense, though.
I haven't seen any evidence that there's like a reason for him to shoot out there because he just doesn't. He doesn't pull the trigger.
No, but like that's what I'm saying. Like Matt and we joke about the Johnny Mullen stuff, Matt, where we said Johnny don't shoot, Johnny don't shoot, Johnny don't shoot. I'm telling you, there was the McCarthy don't shoot, just feed the ball to somebody else. Like let Huddle dodge.
Johnny. Like he almost scored. I think he almost had a goal where the Harvard goalie made a good save. So, like, I am club Johnny can shoot. That being said, especially in that man up, which I think that was the turning point of the game.
Yeah.
For sure. It was that unreleasable man up where they scored 3 goals in, like, whatever.
Right.
40 seconds. That was a situation where when Johnny won it clean on the faceoffs and passed it off, they did a really good job of swinging it around and finding the open guy. Trailer. I mean, that was how they got the Chicago goal. That was how they got the Kaczynski goal.
Right.
So
I should phrase it this way: it's not Johnny shooting; it's them not having a backup. That's how I say it.
That's fair.
A little bit of miscommunication, however that works out. Obviously, like because go Go ahead, Matt.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought because it's something else. Go ahead.
It's a juice spot, right? Like if Johnny scores, everybody goes nuts.
Yep.
Johnny wins the face-off clean. He goes down, turns the ball over. Okay, we're dejected. That's how I'll phrase it. Like, and there was a couple times where Johnny won it clean, and then they had two defenders come in, and I was like, please just get rid of this ball. Please just throw the ball to somebody else. And I don't care who it is. Let McCarthy run around in circles for 10 minutes. Like, go ahead, Matt.
So he has 28 shots on the season.
Okay.
And only 8 turnovers total.
I'll stand by myself on this. It's okay. I'll be myself on this island.
No, I was just sharing the stats. It wasn't a point in either direction.
In my eyes, I'll tell you that much.
I'm talking about McCarthy, by the way.
Okay, never mind. What's the Johnny numbers?
I can tell you. Give me a second here. Vamp.
Cam, pull them up on your computer quick while Matt tries to.
What I will say, while we're on the topic of this, there are a lot of areas where I think a lot of us can have reasonable gripes with Gary Gait and his coaching staff. One, we sat here after the 2023 season, and at least I sat there and I said, like, there's a core here. There is a path to this team getting back to championship weekend where we all want them to go, and there's the talent to do that if they build and develop it. But they have to get an answer at the face-off end. They have to, because they were facing up at 40% in that 2023 season. Yeah, and it was like that's the number one priority. It's kind of honestly where Harvard's at. That's a great team that because they can't win possessions at all is playing catch up the whole game.
Yeah,
and between Cone last year as a transfer addition.
Yep.
Mason Cone. I forgot his first name for a second.
Yeah.
But really with Mullen, because Mullen was not the top face-off guy in his class. I think he was 6th or 7th off the top of my head when I looked.
That's crazy though. When you
not
think about
like
it
the
now.
blue blood went to Chaminade or St. Anthony or something like that. They identified him as the guy. They recruited him and got him on campus. And I remember even Gary Gait would do media before that 2024 season where they're like, yeah, we brought in the transfer face-off, but we also have this freshman coming in who we absolutely love. Yeah. We love him. We think he's going to be amazing. And they freaking nailed it. I mean, that was a must-have position 2 years ago. And arguably Syracuse's position of biggest long-term weakness 2 years ago that has turned into arguably their biggest long-term strength.
Right. Well,
purely thanks to hitting on Johnny Mullen the way they did.
And
he's the number one face-off guy in Lacrosse Reference's face-off ELO right now by a pretty wide margin. I think you can make the argument he's the best face-off guy in the country. It's him or Wambach, right?
Yep.
And they've still got 2 more years of him after this.
Yeah, both of them. They're going to be the battle for the top 2, I think, the next 2 years.
It's a ton of credit to the staff for nailing that with Mullen the way that they did, and they deserve credit.
Yep.
Well, I think it also speaks to the assistants, though. Like, we got to give credit to the whole staff here, like the development.
Yeah, the whole staff. The whole staff.
And I'm not saying you aren't, Ken. I'm just saying, like, the people are going to say Gary did all this. No, that's not just a Gary thing. Like,
I
wish I could.
Right? I think that TD was there the year that was TD there last year? No, it was Aquaviva. So
it was Aquaviva.
Yeah. So not TD, unless TD recruited him. If TD found him and recruited him, then hey, credit to TD, right? So
well, but like you talk about, Aquaviva works with Jimmy, right? Like everybody talks about Jimmy. Look what happened. We all said it. Like, let Jimmy play, let Jimmy iron out everything, and he makes the saves when you need him, though. That's his thing.
He made big saves in the fourth. He only had 5, but they were 5 big saves.
Literally, that's so funny that you said it that way, Cam, because my note is McCool, only 5 saves, but 5 big ones.
Yeah.
The exact same way I wrote it.
Again, while the offense was going on that, and so much of that offensive run was they just played make it, take it, and Harvard couldn't respond because Harvard didn't have the ball at any point during that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it was 11-11, then eventually 12-11 before the man up shenanigans at the end of the game, like
Yeah.
the Cuse defense was locking down.
Yeah.
And those 2 or 3 clutch possessions where Harvard's offense finally got the ball back. Jimmy made saves. I don't know if they were spectacular saves. He had that really good save in like early in the fourth quarter where they passed it across the crease and he basically
Right.
zoned
Yeah.
the Harvard attackman.
Right.
But
There's some
like,
good time
defense,
doubles in the fourth quarter too. That
the defense
the ball
locked up. They got big turnovers. Harvard missed some shots. It happens, right? Like they shot like what, 40%, I think. I think their offensive efficiency was like 40% in this game, which, you know what? Not 50% from the first game, and that made the difference in the end.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
and I was listening to the interviews today because obviously they're all going to do their media tour today, right? Like they're going to, Cam, you know this. Every person from that staff is doing their media. Matt, I know we already talked about it before Cam hopped on, but like
whole week on Cuse Sports Talk.
They were all there today too, Cam. Trust me. They were. Yeah. Tim made his media tour, obviously, which he does. He's going to. But like Tim compared it to I forgot how he said it. He said the first half to Duke, the way that they played offensively, right? The slow style, and he goes, and the rumor is that Sammy English and Caden Cole said, let's play loose. That's what everybody's saying in unison. Whoever got to him at halftime, it wasn't a coach thing. I'll just say it that way. And it didn't need to be a coach thing, right? Because it's like, we're down 8-2. What's going to happen? All right, we come back against like we did against Carolina and come short.
There was a universal sense across everybody that like, and that's the power. That's what having a good face-off guy does to you, right? The universal sense of it doesn't matter how much we're down. We can score. We can win the ball. We can score again. We can win the ball. We can score again.
I know you touched on the end, but we're going to touch on. I know you touched on the M camp, but we're going to touch on the middle of the second half because that's a big part of it. Like, so you third quarter, like you guys said, go back and forth, right? Like you can kind of, and then that penalty.
When Harvard got their 11th goal, I was driving home from dinner at that point, and when Harvard got their 11th goal, like I had the radio broadcast on. Yeah. And when Harvard got their 11th goal, I think they were up 5 or 6 for like the second time that quarter. I was like, that was when I was like, okay, they're good. Like they can't put that run together of like 3, 4, 5 straight. They can't do it. Harvard always has an answer. Yep. Running out of time, I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna drive home, listen to some like quiet music, like commiserate quietly with myself. And then I'm at a red light, Twitter notifications come in. Then I'm at the red light, another Twitter notification comes in. Then I'm at the red light, another Twitter notification comes in. I'm like scrambling on my phone to get the broadcast back up.
I was gonna say, so all you're saying, you had to mute Tim. That's what I just heard. That Matt, you heard that right? You had to turn off Tim.
I had to mute
because there was a time when
I sacrificed my listening experience for the greater good.
Yeah, but like, there's how people have their things with that. Like, there are people who were screaming at people who were coming to sit back down to go back upstairs and go back and just watch the TVs in the concession stands where I was sitting. But like, Matt, you kind of said it, right? The 5-goal deficit in the fourth quarter. We can skip the third quarter's back and forth. Like Cam, like you said, the 5-goal deficit, you're like,
with 11 minutes left, they scored to go up 5 again.
Yeah, and then you're like, okay, if they're going to do it, this is when it happens, right? Because it can't get to 5 minutes left, and you can't play that game and hope that you can go on that run if Harvard doesn't score. Let's just say it that way. That was my thought. Like, you have to play make it take it. I don't care what you posted. I'm just going to say it that way. Matt, if you check YouTube, there's a comment there. So I'm not giving him any promo because of what he said to me at halftime. So I'm just going to say it that way. Matt, you know who it is. So, but like, you're like, okay, we get within 4 and I did this to somebody. I go this close. And then it's like, okay, the dome starts to wake up, right? Like,
I love the way College Cross Commission on Twitter put it, that the dome gods woke up, right? That's what it was. The dome gods woke up.
Matt got told to sit down. I'll say it that way. Like, but like,
I told Dan that like my section in particular, a lot of people were not standing at first, like when the momentum started happening. So I kept standing up and like telling people like, get up, let's go. Like, and then people would sit back down. And then one guy was like, can you sit down, please? You're blocking my view.
But like, that's right. Like 90% of the time I'm okay with that. I'll be honest. Like if you want to say it that way, but like, I think Tim said it today. One person stands up in a section like a mat, right?
Yep.
Then somebody else stands up. Then you get the whole group, and the place erupted. I be honest, you could have told me the place was filled in the upper deck, and I would have believed you with how loud it actually was. Like genuinely, like
it might have been louder than the Notre Dame game when we had 15,000 people there.
Yeah,
you can. It's harder to tell on the broadcast.
Right? Yeah.
For sure. Even then, you're like, "Wow, this is a crowd that's like, it's louder than it looks, right?" Like you watch enough games of the broadcast, you know the difference between 5,000 and 10,000.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, but I mean, like, it was so telling how much on social media the players were shouting out the fans in the crowd after the game.
Yeah, yep.
That
100%.
That made an impact. Undoubtedly, that made an impact.
I think Federally called the fans the player of the game. I think on the radio broadcast. So like that tells you something because he's usually Mr. Wu, as I call him. I don't call him by his last name. I've never called him.
That is how he is known.
Like, but like he usually shouts out like a defensive midi or just somebody that has on the defense typically like, okay, Sammy had a game on defense. Nope. With everything that happened during the game, I mean, you can shout out Kakemo, you can shout out Kaczynski, you can shout out Johnny Mullen. Like
this one was interesting because everybody knew Mullen was the player of the game. Everybody knew Mullen.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't even need to mention it because everybody knew it. So you almost had flexibility to throw something out there like the fans.
Speaking of that, hold on, pause.
Go ahead.
Anybody listening to this, go on to Inside Lacrosse's Instagram and vote for Johnny Mullen for Player of the Week.
Here he goes.
Houston Army.
Yeah. But like you start to see that momentum swing, right? Like
it was that penalty, man. Like I didn't see it happen until I rewatched it.
It was insane.
From a Harvard perspective, that has got to be like I mean, it's like you're up 4.
Yeah.
10 minutes left, right? You can nurse your way through this.
All right.
Don't commit a non-releasable penalty. Don't do it. The other face-off guy's winning everything.
And honestly, I think
it should have been 2 as well.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It was blatant to the face. Like
I stood right up and I put the 2 up because I was like, that's 2. That's an easy 2. But you can call it the same thing on Syracuse in the first half, though. Like I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Like if we
want to, the other part was like it wasn't as though you were like, oh, if you just get the man up, you get the man up at it, and they'll make it happen. Like they had the 2-minute non-releasable that turned into that 5-on-5 nonsense in the first half. It didn't look like they knew what they were supposed to do when it was 5-on-5.
Yep.
And there were man up possessions that fizzled out. There was before then, the only man up that they had converted was the one where Joey dodged down the alley and basically just completely like Jedi mind tricked the goalie into saving it low, and the ball goes like up there, which the old Dig State adage of you got to have silky mitts to make a goalie do that. But it was not like a surefire guaranteed thing that, they're on the man up. This is they're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
Like, it was the opportunity. Everybody saw it for that. But,
it kind of worked out because of injury. And I think Gary gets credit for this is Trey Deer. Like he is perfect for the man up offense.
That first goal on the man up I'm convinced it was a design set that they ran where they got everybody to kind of they got the ball to everybody and they swung it around. And then they had Joey on the crease.
Yep.
Here on the opposite side of the crease. And it was Jeb, Elijah Brown, kind of like up top, and Finn on the wing. Jeb passes it to Finn. Finn rotates up while Spallina leaks out. And then Jeb cuts directly in front of the crease, which draws those defenders over so that Deer is just completely open on the backside.
I really wish I could have a field cam so you could have to diagnose that exactly like that. I just want to say it that way so you can.
That was because I got to rewatch it on the broadcast or on the replay where I could pause. Go back, pause,
Cam
go back.
was circling it on his TV like, look, I can draw this play.
Yeah,
This is
he's got
how
the yellow
this-
marker.
Whiteboard.
But it doesn't
that
work
was-
out like that. Like
I'm
99%
convinced
of the
that
time.
was a set, and
Yeah.
credit to Marchgate, whoever dialed that set up.
Yeah.
It was exactly what they needed.
Boy.
And then credit to Deere for, like, it's unsung, underrated hero of the game offensively, like, is being able to just bury those tight angle looks and do it consistently when you need it. Like, it was Jeb who did it against Notre Dame, and then it was Trey Deere in this game.
Right.
So not only were that first goal was huge, but then the fact that Byrne challenged it and lost it, further pushed it along, like,
Yeah.
because then that got the crowd even more amped up to be like, yeah, screw you, you don't
The thing with that though, right? Like, it's another one of those stupid replays where it's like, okay, what are they reviewing? Don't say anything. Go right to the replay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
there needs to be more like transparency on that.
Yeah, like if you're gonna announce it.
Because in the broadcast, right, you kind of get more of a sense of it because the announcers kind of walk you through
all
it.
they show it here. There's Cam. This is what they do. There, that's what they do. Like, and it's fine if, like, you know what you're watching, right? 90% of the people were like, "Oh, is it a goal mouth?" And that's just the live, like, not even seeing the replay. And then to the Dome's credit, they show the replay of the feet, and that's like, okay, like this is what they're looking at. Like,
yeah.
It was funny. My aunt was sitting next to me, and she goes, "What does this mean?" Like,
yeah,
like she literally had no idea, and I had to explain it to her. She's like, "Oh, thank you." She's like, "I love coming to games with you. I always learn something."
There you go.
I will just say I had a very disinterested fan, Matt, and I think you can figure out who that was. We'll just say it that way. She goes, "I didn't want to ride home with you after the first half because you were miserable. I didn't talk to my wife the whole first half. She was trying to ask me 75 questions, and I was like, don't talk to me. I don't want to talk to anybody right now. Just let me sit in peace." And she goes, "You're a little happier now." I go, "Well, yeah, like that might be the craziest comeback I've ever watched."
It was it was almost to the point of, like, you know, like you're driving home. I'm driving home from Mother's Day dinner event, and it's 11:05 in the fourth or 11:06 or whatever in the fourth. And it's like, well, I mean, like, here's the pot. I'm telling my parents, like, okay, positive side is, like, hey, what do you want to do on Saturday? Like, Saturday's open now.
Go ahead, Matt.
I was gonna say, I know people give Gate a hard time for not doing much on the sidelines, right? Like, that's one of the narratives. Huge call and play by him to call the timeout after the second goal in that extra man once we get the face off in the box. Because then we have a chance to fully get set up for that second half of that minute. Like, huge call there by him. Like, that was such a smart play. Like, and then you can argue on the flip side, he should have called a timeout at the end of the game. But,
you know, before we get there, I do want to say
all the positives first. Let's get to the positives before the end, before that happens.
Right, and it was very much a carbon copy play where Mullen wins the faceoff clean, dishes it to Hiltz, dishes it behind the cage to Thompson, and then they hit the trailer. And obviously, in that final man up goal, it's easier because there's not a man to cover the trailer, right? That being said, I think I'm about 90% confident that's Kaczynski's first goal for Syracuse. Like, ever.
Yes.
Both him and Kakemo, there was their first career goals.
To go low to low like that in that moment, in that situation, I did not know you had that in your bag, Chuck.
Listen,
I did not know.
You know what? I'll give my short stick right now, and Matt, you can vouch for this. I probably can't do that 10 times out of 10 if I want to.
I can't.
Be blatantly
I was an attackman.
That's what I mean.
I was watching my buddy who played defense throughout high school and everything, and that was the goal that got him the most excited by a wide margin.
But like that's what lit the Dome on fire, though. In reality, right? Like, everybody goes nuts for the juice goals, and it's great. But when you have two pole goals. And it's like, okay, they have a chance.
And it's not Dwan or Grace.
I was just gonna say.
Okay, I know who's scoring.
Well, I hate to say this, but we've become numb to the Dwan scores. Like it's like okay,
Yeah.
like he's gonna do this. Grace, okay, he did it at our IT. Like let's like.
It was interesting. Oderna was on Cuse Sports Talk today,
Yeah.
and Brian Higgins asked him about the pole goals, and he was saying that like Kaczynski pretty regularly in practice is scoring goals, like
Right.
and he's like, even this past week, one day in practice, he scored 2 in a row in whatever drill they were doing, whatever.
Right.
And he had looked at him and said, one of these days, one of them is going to fall for you. Like,
Yeah.
so I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Here's your defenseman. Hold on, just to make him happy.
And you know, I after the game, people, especially people in my friend group who aren't the biggest lacrosse heads, we're talking about like, where does this rank in all-time comebacks, right? Where does this go? My mind immediately went to 1983. I mean, I think that's the all-time number one forever. Just being the first national championship, the way they did it against Hopkins. What cued that was Darren Lawler. I'm about 95% confident on the name, first name at least, but Darren Lawler scoring in his final game, his first career goal as a long pole. So there's a little bit of magic in there with that repeated itself with the Kakano and the Kaczynski goals.
So Matt, it must be nice to be able to research this and be able to call this up. Like, oh yeah, I watched this. Like, I know.
Listen, we have our resident historian with us.
Resident amateur historian. That's why I liked the Dome Gods comment.
I went to 2009. That's where I went to, because obviously that's the one that I remember.
Yeah, but I think 2009 was more singular of a moment, right? In that it was like, oh, this wasn't a ridiculous like 6, 7, 8 goal comeback. It was just the like last ditch, last second magnitude of it in that kind of sense.
I was gonna say, before I left for the Dome, Cam's Syracuse history showed up, and then the 2009 championship video showed up, and I was like, oh, we're good. We're the gods, the lacrosse gods are with us today. Like everything is good.
Dome gods. The Dome gods had it.
And then we'll just
someone referenced the Virginia comeback too. I can't remember what year. 02 or something like that.
It was 97. It was a 22-21 game.
See,
I think that's the pantheon, right? Is like 83 against Hopkins, 22-21 against Virginia.
Yeah.
In the
09 championship.
He's got all his notes pulled up from all the comebacks from everything, because he like listed them off probably on the side. It just and then the end of the game. Let's just get to the end of the fourth quarter, right? Like that craziness happens, and my mother will vouch for this. She goes, just hold on to the freaking ball. Just literally run in circles for however long you can, and hope that
I spent at least 15 minutes dissecting this when I rewatched the game.
Oh boy, here we go.
So here's my thoughts. I understand. I get the logic of, okay, we're gonna put our three best midfield, offensive or defensive athletes out there and let them go for it. And honestly, after Duke, I was like, English is the guy who should have had the ball in that situation. So I don't hate that they brought the ball in English's stick.
Yeah.
Here's where, from a design perspective, it went wrong before like any even of the timeout stuff. Number one, if you're gonna have Carter Rice out there, he can't just be sitting in the back corner.
Yep.
Because then his defenseman can just play off. And
we're going to play the double game.
You're almost playing a man down at that point, right? Secondly, Wyatt Hoddle cuts towards the goal as English is cutting across the field. And like, okay, I can kind of see it, but you've got to keep going all the way to the goal. What ends up happening is Hoddle like halfway stops in no man's land, and that's an extra defender that English is running into. So, I mean, it's now like a quadruple team on English. And yes, Michael Leo is there for the pass, and he's wide open on the end line. But you are risking, by making that pass, you are risking having it checked away. The pass goes off, and it's a guaranteed going the other way. Yeah. Versus even, he gets checked away from him, the ball's on the ground, you got to scrap for that ground ball. credit to Harvard, their poll made a very good ground ball pickup on that.
Didn't it pop up in the air and it went right into his stick?
Yeah, it
No,
was
it didn't pop up in the air.
It was,
They checked it out of English's hands, and then it went on the ground for a little bit. But the Harvard poll was like straight to it, scoop it up, dodge away from everybody.
Yeah.
Like it was a phenomenal ground ball pickup.
I think it's a credit to
That being
Harvard, though.
said,
Go ahead, Cam, and then I have thought about this. Go ahead. Finish your
No,
25
that's
minute
the design
interview.
perspective of where it went wrong. I cannot believe Gary didn't call timeout. I can't believe
boy.
it. When English
clipping
runs
this.
into a quadruple team.
Yep.
You have the timeout. Call it.
You know what the worst part is? I said to my wife, I said, everything went perfect for Harvard, right? Like that doesn't happen unless everything goes perfect from ground ball to shot. Like 9 times out of 10, somebody chases him down. It's just the way it works. Like,
and the other side of that was Harvard gets the ground ball, goes the other way.
Yep.
I'm not going to be the person to say, "Oh man, English, like whatever." Like I recognize he's been out there for the vast majority of the game. It's the end of the game.
Here he goes. Here.
English was, to put it politely, a turnstile in the effort to stop the guy clearing the ball for Harvard. But then also, English kind of like after he gets blown by in Syracuse's defensive half, right up towards kind of midfield, chases him down and tries to like rectify it.
Yep.
And that means that there's like 3 short sticks that converge on this one guy clearing it for Harvard.
Yep.
And that's what lets them pass it off to whoever was on the wings for them, skip past it, hangs in the air, and that Harvard guy gets a open step down. Now,
Matt, do you want to read that YouTube comment really quick? Just read that. Just read it out loud, please. Just it's not me saying it.
It says Gary was busy admiring his shirt.
That's a known Syracuse hater. I'll just say it that way.
I think I haven't read much on the fan boards, but there was the person who was like, "I can't believe Gary's wearing that shirt."
It might have been the person who just commented, and I know this. He may or not have been trolling because I got a message at halftime from him. What the heck is going on? That's the polite way I can say it.
Yeah,
like,
I mean that was what we all thought at halftime. Was like, man, did they pulled the wool over our heads for the ACC tournament or something? Like, how are we back to this? How does it look worse than this?
So then that happens, and I'm like, okay, I think it was 5 seconds left, right? Was it 5 seconds? 6? I'm like, okay, Johnny clean win. Johnny's gonna be the hero. Johnny's
delusion. The delusional confidence from having a good face-off guy that's actually not that delusional because you're like, that's well, they're gonna win the face-off, so it's like
they win it clean.
Overtime that first possession, like
Johnny shoots outside the restraining box with 0 seconds left. The ball magically bounces. That was my pipe dream for the end of the fourth quarter. Like I would come on here.
One of those random Duke goals from the last 2 games, right? Like at the end of the first half.
And then overtime happens, and it was a quick overtime, obviously. Like I thought Gary was going to call a timeout the minute they won the faceoff. Like here, we know what we got to do. Let's set it all up.
I'm kind of glad he didn't.
I was just going to say, I'm so happy he didn't.
Like that was a good spot. Good Gary not calling a timeout there.
Cam's patting him on the head. I just want to point that out. So
my note for the end of the game is shooters shoot.
Yep.
Because the thing that I love too is like 100 times that opportunity is there, Joey's going to make that pass because he knows like Owens. I'm sure he's thinking in the back of his head a little bit like Owen hasn't had a great game, but I'm throwing it in there because my guy's going to make it. Like
you know, like that's not an easy pass to make either.
Yeah,
we are desensitized to it because Joey makes it so consistently.
Yep.
It's not an easy pass to make.
Yep. I wish I could clip stick talk from last night. Matt, you might was it Shango that said that 10 shot thing? Like that's a message.
0 for 9. Hiltz was 0 for 9.
And like nobody remembers that. Like I think that's fair. Like everybody's like, oh, he scored. Okay, he didn't do it.
One of them was the BTB to Mikey Leo.
Yeah,
The-
but like nobody even
quote-unquote
remembers those. Everybody's like, okay, 1 for 1. I'm good.
Yeah.
1 for 1. Like that's
Yeah.
People remember the BTB assist to Leo on the man up to take the
Yeah.
lead and the overtime winner.
and
And
then
also shout out Michael Leo for nailing that shot too, right? That step down.
well, that's another one though, right? If the behind the back pass, and they were talking about it today on the radio or Cuse Sports Talk, however you want to phrase it. If the behind the back pass goes wide, it's a horrible play, and everybody criticizes Hilt for that pass.
Yep.
That's the risk you take.
Cam, that'll be on Cam's next Cuse history of lacrosse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part 55. I think we'll get to part 55 at some point.
I will be 55 at part 55 if that's ever made.
What part are we on right now?
Be 7, right?
Be
6. So the next
6.
one, if there
6.
is ever in theory a next one, I make no promises, would be 7.
I still want to do the deep dive on all those with you.
Off season. Thankfully,
Off-season.
not yet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't do that. Don't you, Matt, you heard what he just said. I just want to point that out. You heard that, right? You called
was
that.
It
okay.
happens at some point.
Yeah.
That being said, give it another week. I'll be very happy. Let's put it that way.
Let's look ahead though, like quickly.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm gonna hand this over to the two experts that are on the panel. I'll just say one is I'll just say a D1 coach in making, the one that drew up that man up play that knows what he's talking about here. You watch more of the Nashville than I do. I think
I will say
talking
that
about Cam, Matt. Don't
I know.
Don't steal Cam's spot.
I
Right?
have not had a chance to deep dive into Princeton or really watch a game. That being said, based on some of the lacrosse reference stats, they kind of are a souped up version of what Harvard does. Very good offensively. McAsee, probably my personal pick for best shooter in the country, even over a guy like Hiltz. If
you watch his Through X thing,
his Through X was unbelievable.
Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
I just want to say Cam mispronounced that. Matt knows where I'm referencing with that. Cam is the one. If you tell him to go to Princeton, he will memorize how to pronounce it because somebody criticized McEnany pronunciation. I just want to point that out for people.
You got it right, Matt. He got that one right. It was McAsee.
Yeah, McAsee.
Yeah,
Right?
We say that, Matt. I'm just saying that we said McEnany right too, and somebody's telling me to go to the Maryland website and look at their pronunciation. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, McEnany was BS in Harvard after that game, so I don't really care about that. But, this Princeton team, third in adjusted offensive efficiency right now on Lax reference. Syracuse is fifth. 10th in defensive efficiency. Syracuse is ninth. Very similar in that regard. These are offenses that can light it up, defenses that maybe aren't the centerpieces or the calling cards, but have talent and can show up. Both teams, very good goalie performances. Again, these are two teams that are top 6. Cuse is 6th after the Jimmy game against Harvard, but top 6 in terms of adjusted goalie performances. So, almost a souped up version of what Harvard is. Maybe not quite as good offensively, but certainly better defensively, certainly better goalies, right?
I was going to say the lacrosse fan in me loves this matchup because it brings me back to the 90s.
Yeah.
The old school.
The story, I don't think, and I was dwelling on this last night, I don't think you can write the story much better.
No.
If you were going to do it, if the lacrosse gods have decided this is the script they're writing, I don't think you can write much better of a script. But to finish my breakdown, again, to kind of go for the souped up Harvard, if there's one area where Princeton's not spectacular, it's at the face-off X.
I'll be right back, guys.
Another game where Mullen can really dominate at the X and get Syracuse the extra possessions that he needs to get. They need to get. They can't come out the way they. Congratulations, Captain Obvious. They can't do this again. If you play that first half against Princeton, you're not coming back.
Okay, you know what, Cam? I'll push back. They can. because they've done it before. Here's the thing: the cardiac. That's why I titled this "Cardiac Cuse," right? Because like I had midfielders that former Syracuse midfielders that texted me that said,
Yeah,
the 2009 rematch is coming, and this was
that would be that would be amazing.
Like,
you know, from
go ahead.
From a legacy, from a if you're going to write the story about this, you're going to take an overarching view. If you're going to go from 1,000 degrees and look at this in a part 7 of the history of Syracuse lacrosse, what's the story? Joey Spallina grew up. Joey Spallina, one of the very first lacrosse players ever who grew up, trained to be a professional lacrosse player. Not just like make it to the top of the college game, not this, pro lacrosse.
Right.
On the sidelines for all those Lizards games with his dad. Right. Learning from Rabel, learning from Pinnell.
Yep.
All that happened at Stewart Stadium in Hofstra. And I don't have the exact quote, but when Syracuse in 2023 went and played on the road at Hofstra, there was a very good Daily Orange story. I think it was Daily Orange, where Joey talked about how surreal it was to have grown up going to that stadium all the time, watching games. You hear the announcer call your name out there.
Yep.
Now here we are.
Okay.
Back at Hofstra, the chance to end the Final Four drought.
Yeah.
And you're doing it against an old friend in Princeton.
I'll go another 1,000 degree, right? So like Matt was on his soapbox, and I'm glad Matt's away for this part of this. Like CJ Curse wins it, right? Like the Twarton. How fitting would it be for Joey to have the championship and be left off that list? And 1,000 degrees ahead of 1,000 miles ahead of where I want to be right now. But like, if that's the way they're in the season, I'm good. Like
I don't care about individual awards. If you bring me the team hardware, right?
Like, something like that where like it'd be poetic in a way. Like, I got left off this list, but I got this. I got the ring.
Like, a vintage Joey performance, able to win matchups.
Yeah.
Like,
right, like Johnny's not going to go 24 for 28. Like
he's not. Like, he can probably go 60+%.
No, but like I hate to say it this way, right? Like I was saying it to my dad when we walked, and I go, Johnny's not going to win. Johnny's not going to lose less than 4 against Harvard. I was like, it's so freakishly.
Yeah.
Everything has to go right. Like
that second half. Like it was crazy because there were times where he would win. I mean, he won basically every clamp in the game, right? But then after that, he'd pick it up and he'd just like shove 2 Harvard wing defenders off to keep possession of it. I think there was one play where in the process of picking it up off the clamp, he just ripped the Harvard face-off guy's stick like right out of his hands clean.
There, this will make him happy. I just want to. He's so.
There's a few old friends that Syracuse has non-conference. Hopkins is always the top of that list.
Yep.
Princeton's number 2.
That was Tierney years.
It was the Tierney years. It was the Simmons Tierney years, right?
Yeah.
I
want him to be there. That's all I'm going to say.
90, it was 90. I mean, they had their battles through the early 90s.
Yeah.
98 was when Princeton beats Cuse, and that's Simmons's last game, right?
Right.
In 2000, they just like Desco avenges it. They dominate Princeton in the championship. Ryan Powell matches Casey in points at like the last play of the game. And then I think it was like 01, 02, 03 Princeton won, and 2002 was when Princeton beat Cuse in the championship game. They those two teams, Cuse and Princeton. I don't know off the top of my head. Cuse and Princeton might have played more title games in the 90s than Cuse and Hopkins did in the 80s. Which is saying something because Cuse and Hopkins played like half the title games.
I was gonna say it's close because from my just core memory, that's what it felt like every year. To be honest, like the Hopkins Cuse.
Yeah.
Could you like for a legacy like Joey, right? Like in a bigger picture, you put your 22 up there with the Lockwoods from those years, like somebody like that. Like now we're not talking the Powells, right? Because everybody knows about them. There are people who forget about the Lockwoods, the Marichaks, like everybody like that. That's where you put your jersey up there with.
There's such a contrast with Joey because on one hand, undoubtedly a phenomenal player.
Yep.
Right? Not in the mold that I think a lot of people are used to with what a 22 feels like.
Yep.
A Powell, a Gate.
Yep.
He's very much. I've said a long time. His comparison has always been Tim Nelson, not.
That's a good one. That's actually good though. Like.
And probably I don't know the exact where he's at right now as far as career numbers, but we're like the story. One of the big stories next year is going to be the chase for the all-time career points record. Mike Powell's all-time points record for the program. And honestly, where is he at right now? 237.
I was gonna say you probably have it pulled up right away. I was gonna say you're the one that would have that.
I know my way around the media, guys. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
They changed it. They changed it this year, and they reordered it, and it completely discombobulated me because I had it. They have the records at like page 100, and I knew it, and it was there. And then they put the records at the beginning of the media guide this year, and I had to completely rewire myself to how to
that every year still.
They didn't do it a ton the last couple of years, but they did it for 2025, which is good because it has Joey's numbers from last year.
There's Brian chiming in with something too.
Yeah, but Jameson wasn't like Jameson.
We don't have to deep dive this, Cam. I'm just
not a point club. And I get Jameson obviously in terms of significance is up there
right.
as much as anything. First shiny player to wear 22, that's a huge moment, right?
I just want to say Brian's commenting a lot for somebody who said he can't.
I know, yeah. But it's going to be really interesting to break down his legacy, where obviously the sport has changed so much in the 20 years since the all-time pantheon 22s, the people who hang those jerseys up. They got to get the rest of the Powells up there and Lockwood, get all 5 of those dudes, 22s in the rafters next to each other.
Yeah, well, we could dive into that at a different time because I have a lot of thoughts about the retired numbers and their disability, not ability to retire him.
Joey is very I think the odds are pretty good.
Yeah,
he has a season akin to this one, akin to last year's. He's going to be the all-time points leader for Syracuse history. And he may not even have a Final Four appearance. That's the contrast that people are going to have to wrangle with Joey.
And Kark's big board, he's number 1 for next year.
Yeah, so I think he's going to be number 1. Again,
let's just say if his father has something to say.
Yeah,
let's
see how bad the Redwoods are.
Yeah, I mean, but I think the problem is the people comparing it to him, right? To the Caseys.
Or the Mikeys or the Garys, right?
He's just not. It's gonna sound horrible, but this is as credit as I can give. He's not that dominant of a goal scorer.
He's not that dominant of a one-on-one dodge.
Yes.
That's where everything came from, right? And that's the image we have in our heads of what 22 is.
Yeah.
Is the power and the speed.
And athleticism. Like with Mikey, right? It's like leave him out on the island. He's taking him one-on-one, and he's
he's getting his against anybody in the country. And Spallina's not that. Spallina is the ex-quarterback.
Which I have to be very fair. I'm okay with that. And I'm glad we got all this Spallina left while Matt was muted and he can't hear anything that we could say. So
had Tim Nelson played 4 years, he would be the all-time.
Here he goes. Matt,
what?
That's the most Joey talk we've gotten out of any episode when you were gone. I just want to point that out. And Cam and I were praising him up and down, and I saw you start walk back. And I was like,
my kid woke up, so I had to go put him back to bed.
But we were talking about the 22s, right, Matt? Comparing Joey to the greats. Cam said he's the greatest. I'm not going to put words in Cam's mouth. Remember,
Yeah.
Cam also said they would go undefeated. Just want to point that out. So, but like, he's not the greatest goal scorer, but I think he's one of the greatest all-around players. I'll say it that way.
He doesn't fit
Yeah.
the prototypical image of what people have in their mind when they think of 22.
Yeah.
It's not Gary Gait or Casey Powell. He's
No.
Tim Nelson. Now,
No.
the thing
Yeah.
about that is, like, Tim Nelson, had he played 4 years for Syracuse, would be by a wide margin the all-time points leader. Right? Tim
He
Nelson.
only played 3 seasons, right?
Yeah, only 3 seasons, and he had 271 points.
Right.
Right.
I think
Casey and Ryan
so-
are at 287 across 4 seasons. I think it's
Matt,
the top 3.
you may have a Joey DM. Cam has a Tim Nelson DM that it says mention this every 5 minutes because please, it's a $1 every time he mentions Tim Nelson because when you were gone, I've never heard that name mentioned so much. Cam is just every other word. Tim Nelson, this Tim Nelson. I know. Cam.
I say
Joey
it just because that's the comp, and that's
Yeah.
what Joey is. And
Yeah.
you know, just because Nelson didn't wear 22,
Here we go.
like,
I mean,
you know, like it's going to be such an interesting contrast with Joey,
Right.
where this is someone who is going to be on that all-time list,
Yeah.
almost undoubtedly in the top 5, probably the all-time leader in points by the time he's done.
Matt just got a DM from Splina saying the career points. Let him explain this. Go ahead.
he didn't give me. Oh, shut up. So if Powell's record is 307, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if he stays on pace with the last 2 years,
Mhm.
with this year and last year, he'll have about 220 or 320.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I was
320.
gonna say,
Right
I was gonna say, Matt. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's a little
300
off. Like,
320.
yeah,
And
Yep.
he's had 80+ points. I mean, he had 68 points his freshman year, his
right.
worst year. Right.
Yeah.
He has that again, which it would be a letdown by all accounts, and he's
Yeah.
still over the 307.
Matt, I was telling Cam how fitting would it be if Kirst obviously wins the Spartan, but Joey's holding the national championship trophy. Like, haha, I got left off the list, but look what I just won. Like,
And I'll tell you, Joey 10 times out of 10 would rather have the national championship than
yeah,
the trophy.
yeah,
Me
but
too.
like, yeah, like I think we can all be
Fair.
fair here. Like, I want both, but if I have a choice, I'm obviously taking the national championship. Like,
You know,
I happen to be on their website. I was looking up those full stats. And can we just take a moment to talk about how ridiculous some of these guys' headshots are from the beginning of the season? Joey with the mullet, and then
yep.
the winner of the worst, grossest
Wow.
one
Which one we
Where's-
got? I have
Hold on.
I have the roster pulled up.
is Finn.
Okay, I have to go because I have
He's
it by
got the
number.
mullet. He's got the
that's
racing
so
stripes on the side, and then the
Oh my
dirty
goodness.
stash.
Like,
you compare it to what Finn is rocking now.
yeah,
Ugh,
Night
it's
and
so bad. Michael
I-
Grace's is pretty gross too. He's got like a mini mullet.
my favorite thing from senior day, unrelated, was the Kyle Rowley picture from his freshman year. I don't know if either of you saw that.
Mm-mm.
Go to Rowley's freshman year and then look at him now. The headshot from his freshman year when they showed the headshot like when he walked onto campus.
That's
And-
awesome.
And it's a little different, is all I'm gonna say. That's
That's funny.
yeah. I was totally wrong on the Harvard prediction. I thought they'd win by a lot. I'm gonna redeem myself.
Okay.
Syracuse by 2. I won't give you a number. I won't tell you.
I think so. I obviously missed what you guys were talking about with Princeton too. Did you guys talk about face-offs at all?
No.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean,
Well, a
that's an
little
area.
bit,
That is the one area where there's a separation. And
Yep.
It's use. So Mullen, they can win possessions. That's big.
That could be
Right.
the difference in the game. It's funny because if you watch this team, right, they do well, and then they almost get like too cocky or like too lackadaisical or whatever the appropriate word is there of like too far where they're playing loose, but like it's to a fault almost, right? Like, and then something happens that caused them to snap out of it, whether it was that 3-game losing streak, the 2-game losing streak where they lost to Harvard the first time, or the 3-game streak that then put them back into the ACC tournament. I'm hoping, even though we came out with a win, I'm hoping that happens coming into this Saturday of like all right, we for lack of better words, and apologize for swearing the whole fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Like hopefully it's that moment again so that this team can kind of refocus. And it was interesting because the conversation out of the ACC tournament was they found different ways to win, right?
Yep.
And this was another one of those.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's different than both of those 2 games, and it's just another way they found to win. They played like crap the first half. They fought back. They grinded it out. They cleaned it up the second half. So
they showed me something that I didn't think they had. That's the way that I'll phrase it, right? Like
I thought they had it. Like what you can say about this team is in the games that they pulled it off and they won, like Harvard, but also in the games like Carolina that they didn't necessarily win, or especially the Cornell game.
Yeah.
This is a team that is never going to count themselves out of anything. And this is a team that's never going to give up on anything. And that's worth a lot more than I think you initially give it credit for.
Yeah.
There is a mental resiliency and a mental fortitude there for them to overcome.
And that's not something this class had the last 2 years.
It's not. It's what separated them, and it was the poise in overtime, right? This you think about all the overtime losses, all the 1-goal losses last year.
Yeah.
This is a team that's kind of grown up and learned how to win, and now they have to do it on the biggest stage. But you feel that there's more confidence in them being able to navigate the mental aspect of that.
I think Gary said it perfectly though, and I think it was his post game. We learned from those losses where in the past year we didn't learn from those losses. We learned that we can, like you guys just said, we can still do this. We can be down by 6. Everybody in the stands counts us out except for Brian and Matt. I'm just going to phrase it that way. But we could still do it. Like, there's still that chance. But the old adage is don't let us get one, right? And then it's like, okay, the momentum starts rolling. And I think the thing is, like, just as somebody who watches 99% Syracuse, I don't think there's a lot of teams in the tournament field that could have done the same thing. I'll just say it that way. Because there are a lot of teams. The Marylands, obviously, we all know how they are.
Look at Duke in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Like they come in hot. All the Carolina fans are awfully quiet. I'll just say it that way. They all shut up really quick.
Can't rely on 2 guys for your whole offense to shoot 40 times a game.
That's what I said. Only the Syracuse team would come out and play so flat that they dug that first half over themselves, and only the Syracuse team would pull themselves out of it by face-off play and the offensive, the way they turn around on offense.
Right.
Like, Princeton's a really good team. It's going to be a really good game, and Syracuse is going to have to be locked in for 4 quarters. There's none of this.
Yeah. Go ahead,
none of these runs where it's just not working. Like they got to be locked in from the go.
Right.
But when this team is locked in from the go, when they're playing with the urgency and the hustle and the effort and the focus that they have shown, when the pieces to this puzzle come together, and it's been infuriating that it's not always there. It's far from always there. But when it's together, when the pieces are there and the puzzle comes together, this is a really, really freaking good lacrosse team.
Yep.
And if they do it against Princeton, they are like, you got something on the line here. It has been 12 years. 12 years people have been waiting for a Final Four appearance, which is an eternity to this fan base.
Think about it this way: Max wasn't born. I'll just phrase it that way, Matt, just as a reference. Like
I who was I talking to? I don't know if it was my wife or maybe it was my buddy at work today.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but I was saying how like I've been going back and forth with my wife about it because
Go ahead.
that weekend is my niece's first birthday party.
Yep.
And I've been kind of arguing with my wife, and it hasn't been anything serious, but like just saying like she's won, she's not gonna know the difference.
Right.
And I was telling my buddy at work, I was like, there's a chance that if they make it this year, that might be the only time when Max is a kid that they make it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no guarantees ever. Like, you know, like it's been 12 years. Like in 12 years, he's 20.
I joke about that, but Matt, when we were younger, we're obviously older than Cam, right? So like when we were younger, it was okay, they're going every year.
Yep.
It's a God-given thing. Yeah.
It's never going to be that. Right now, you get forever and ever. You get to point to that. You get to point to 22 straight Final Fours and go. That's always ours. You can never take it away. And it's one of the craziest things that any college lacrosse program, any school at any sport has ever pulled off. But it's not that, and that's because the game has grown. Like the game is better that it's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was gonna say it's never gonna happen because of the parity in lacrosse, though. I think we can all be fair. Like
exactly.
it's
I mean, look
crazy.
Look at Tillman, right? They've made it 10 out of the last 14 years.
Don't praise him. We're not a Maryland podcast.
But I'm just saying comparing it to the 22 years in a row, like it's still amazing that he's made it 10 out of the past 14 years. Like, but it's never like that record is never going to get broken. And also, how fitting is it that it was 22 seasons? Can we just say that's like a kind of cool thing?
Here he goes. He got a DM said mention 22. Here it is. Like this is no.
You know, like this team. They're 60 minutes away from putting themselves into the genuine history and lore of Syracuse lacrosse. We were the guys who broke the streak. We were the guys who broke the drought.
Yeah, like
we were the guys who got back to the Final Four.
Yep. And that's this class's goal, right?
There are people who were sitting next to me who bought their tickets for Gillette. And they said they have the ability. I said, I have to see it. I don't want to do this crap where I'm not enough of a lacrosse fan to go to a Final Four when my team isn't playing. I'll just flat out say it that way. Like it doesn't mean as much to me.
The pieces are there. The pieces are there. And they put it together. It's been the question all year.
Right.
And they just barely put it together enough against Harvard. But you know what? Survive in advance.
Yeah.
They don't ask how, they ask how many.
Exactly. Everybody was posting "Alive" by Pearl Jam on their Instagram stories. Grace, all of it.
I was going to say, Matt, I also said for somebody that said he couldn't make it, Brian is commenting awfully lot. That's all I'm going to say. Like, I'm sure there's something going on. I'm not even going to, I don't know if he flew back today or whatever or what.
No, he's still home. He might be home and not be able to be on or something, I bet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just gonna Cam made time out of his day. That's all I'm gonna say. Cam ran home and said, I need
to be ahead of Brian on the leaderboard. That's my goal. Maybe I can't make all of them, but I can make more of them.
For the imaginary leaderboard, Matt and I are ahead, okay? That's all I'm gonna say.
That's why Matt's the unofficial co-host.
You're the title that you have. That's your title. That's the title, the headline that you made for you. Mm-hmm. Listen, Cam did say he would make graphics. I'm still waiting for those to be sent. The Discord, everything that you kept talking about I just haven't seen it. That's all I'm going to say.
Talk about 2026.
Yeah. Everybody contact his Twitter for all those questions. I will not be taking any of those questions.
But going back to what you were saying, Dan, I would agree in that I think it's going to be a close game.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be punch. Yeah.
There's going to be heavyweights throwing haymakers. At least that's the thought process.
As it should be, though.
And like Cam said, as long as we bring our A game, we bring our North Carolina, our Notre Dame game.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Our Notre Dame game.
You know what? There's going to be something that hasn't happened all year, Matt. We're going to be watching on TV, and Cam's going to be there. This is the first time all year that we can. So
Cam's going to bring the good juju.
Hopefully,
You know what,
It's
Cam?
really putting the chips on the table with this.
I'm just
undefeated
gonna.
streak that I have
All I'm gonna
watching
do.
Syracuse live.
I'm gonna send one tweet that says he was there, and then I'm gonna at your Twitter if something happens, so that
That's what we've
everybody
been
can
saving
go
up
right
for.
to you and go right after you.
That's what we've been
So-
saving up for.
Cam, I'll let you finish it off with your prediction though, because you're gonna be there. You've obviously.
While Matt was gone, I talked about this. I am a romantic about the sport.
boy.
At heart, I'm a romantic about the sport. So I'm not going to give a score. I'm not going to give the exact method. But I'm going to say Syracuse wins by 1 goal. And
Okay.
Joey Spallina at Hofstra, the stadium he grew up
Oh boy, here he goes.
on the sidelines, makes the play that sends Syracuse back to the Final Four at Hofstra.
You know what? I'll
I
make
will,
it better.
I will lose it.
I'm just gonna
If there is
Matt.
a story, if the Dome Gods have written their script,
Matt,
I
go to
hope it
YouTube really quick when you
it's
get a
lined
sec.
up.
Okay, it's for me and you. Yeah, there's somebody that wants us down there. Cam is what I'm gonna say. So that's I'm not giving him any more publicity.
I have too much stuff going on this weekend. I can't get down there.
I already said it before. Like Annapolis,
I
can
will be
swing.
there for the whole Cuse Avengers squad.
Yeah, like
Where's Brad?
Cam's gonna be leading the tailgate. I'm just gonna say, Cam, you find the SU people, they will welcome you. That's all I'm gonna say. You go to the right people. You can walk around like Matt and just find random cars in the parking lot, or you can just go to people you know and just say, "Hey, I'm Matt," or "Hey, I'm Cam. I did the Citrus TV history."
Yeah, if I'm the Cuse Lacrosse guy, the key history of Cuse Lacrosse guy, I think I'll have.
You should get an iPad and put a chain around so you can have it around your neck, just constantly
I'm
playing.
just
it as you
gonna
walk
say,
around.
look for a Powell 22 jersey, and and he'll welcome you with open arms. That's all I'm gonna say. I think Matt knows what I'm talking about.
It'll be really fun.
There's going to be a lot of people that are traveling. I will say that the number.
For it.
So with that, because Matt and
the other people I'm going with to hop in
No.
for Cornell too, because I do want to watch that Cornell team play in person, but we'll see if that's a winning battle or not.
he's not a Syracuse fan, folks. I hate to say it. He's the one that said it. Matt nor I said that. Matt's not even paying attention. He's just
No.
in his own
Look,
little
I'm just
world.
scouting, right? We're scouting ahead of the national championship.
Yeah. I'll do this. Because I already got a message from that same midfielder who said Cardiac Cuse, who said 2009 rematch. He already
The script is there. It's there.
it's
Nobody wrote it.
It's there, but some of us are old and have to get up for work tomorrow. I'm just gonna phrase it that way. Like so
I'm sure Cam has to get up for work too. He's just not old.
Listen,
I do in fact also have to get up for work
Matt, the
tomorrow.
difference is you and I have to drive somewhere. Cam has to go downstairs probably and sit in front of his computer screens and just like,
Yeah.
oh, I got.
I mean,
this.
listen, you never know how bad the traffic on the stairs is going to be. So
Okay, that's okay. All right, some of us
Maybe
have
the cat
drive-
tries to take him out when he's going down the stairs.
Yeah.
Oh, what did
to,
that?
like,
Cam sends out a tweet. I can't make it to the game. Just broke my ankle going down the stairs on the way to. I wouldn't feel guilty at all. Is all I'm gonna say.
If that's what it took for them to win, that's all I'm saying.
The cat's hearing me. The cat gods need to trip him, so you can't make it.
Oh my God, Dan.
I'm here to bargain.
Yeah. So we'll get everybody out on that note, though, and as always, go Orange.
Go Orange, let's go.
No Orange. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah.